Give galam, galam.
هو الحبيب
شرفه.
ساعتك بالكوبي دايره ولا خليهم
لا خليه معاك. Sí, sí, Uh-huh. Yeah. It's full there. Very good. In the back.
هذا البروتوكول مع فيرستان تقول له ينزل تحت ما عنده مكان هون ورا الرؤساء.
قال واحد لازم يكون معاه، كان هو راجل كبير ما بيقدر يمشي الاسواق. May I kindly request again, all of you, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start the opening ceremony, and I humbly request all of you to take your seats so that you allow us to start the opening ceremony, please. And especially, dear friends here in front of the podium, please, all of you behind,
here, one head of state. We forgot to say.
Yeah, okay.
Your Excellency President Mahmoud al-Sheikh al-Azwan, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of African Union, Your Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and host of the 38th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the Union, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Mr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Mohamed Abbas, President of the State of Palestine, Your Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Honorable Mia Montri, Prime Minister of Barbados and Chairperson of the Caribbean Community, Your Excellency Dr. Adesina Akinomi, President of the African Development Bank, Excellencies, First Ladies, Honorable Ministers here present, Your Excellency Dr. Monique Sazabagana, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies, Commissioners of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Abdel Hassam Jacob Aziz, Deputy Secretary General of the League of Arab States, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors here present, Heads of African Union organs and regional economic communities and mechanisms, I also recognize the presence of our partners, members of the diplomatic corps, members of the press, and all distinguished delegates, all protocols observed. May I now kindly call the Excellency Chairperson of African Union to call this meeting to order. Your Excellency, you have the floor. Thank you.
Excellence, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Premier ministre de la République démocratique d'Éthiopie, notre hôte, honorable chef d'État et de gouvernement, chers collègues, Excellence Moussa Faki Mohamed, président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, je souhaite une chaleureuse bienvenue à tous les chefs d'État et de gouvernement et les hauts représentants des États membres et à nos distingués invités. Je voudrais aussi exprimer notre appréciation pour votre présence. Je suis heureux de déclarer ouverts les travaux de la 38e session ordinaire de la conférence de l'Union africaine. Et pour commencer, mesdames et messieurs, je vous invite à vous lever pour observer une minute de silence à la suite de la disparition d'un grand combattant pour la liberté, Monsieur Samu Nujoma, père fondateur de la Namibie. Donc je vous remercie. Merci. Je souhaite maintenant inviter le protocole de la Commission à nous décliner le déroulement de la cérémonie d'ouverture.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I humbly call all of you to rise for the African Union anthem. Thank you. Your Excellency Muhammad Wild Sheikh Al Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union. Your Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Your Excellencies, heads of states and governments of African Union member states. Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Your Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Abbas Abu Mazin, President of the State of Palestine. Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. Your Excellency Maya Moore Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados. Your Excellencies, distinguished former presidents here present, honorable fairest ladies here present, Your Excellencies, honorable ministers, Your Excellency Dr. Monique Nzanza Baganwa, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellencies, Commissioners, and all the leadership of the Commission, Excellencies, Ambassadors, members of the Permanent Representatives Committee, Your Excellency Mina Wamakela, Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, Your Excellency Madame Nardos Bekele Thomas, Chief Executive Officer of the African Union Development Agency, AUDA-NIPAD, Your Excellency Dr. Jan Kaseya, Director General of the Africa CDC, Your Excellency Ambassador Marie-Antoinette Roscatre, Chief Executive Officer of the African Peer Review Mechanism, APRM, Your Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs of the Republic of South Africa, former Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies, heads of United Nations specialized agencies and international organizations here present, سعادة نائب الأمين العام لجامعة الدول العربية ممثل الأمين العام، Your Excellency Luis Moshikiu Abo, Secretary General of the International Organization of La Francophonie, Your Excellency Dr. Workena Yibihu, Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, Your Excellencies, heads of COMISA, ECOWAS, SINSAT, EAC, ECAS, SADC, and UMMA, Your Excellency Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of the African Development Bank Group, a strong believer of the African development and prosperity, Your Excellencies Dr. Benedict Oki Orama, President of the Afri-Exim Bank, Your Excellency Dr. Sidi Wildeta, President of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADIA, معالي الشيخ شخبوط نهيان آل نهيان، وزير الدولة بدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، Excellencies, permanent observer representatives to the African Union, and Excellencies, representatives of our partners to the African Union, all protocol observed, members of the press, a very good morning to you all. It gives me immense honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the opening ceremony of the 38th Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly of Heads of States and Governments being held today at the Nelson Mandela Hall, the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, the capital of Africa. Addis Ababa, a vibrant city that has been at the heart of the Pan-African diplomacy and multilateralism, stands as a symbol of Africa's unity and progress. As a host nation of the African Union, Ethiopia plays a crucial role in fostering continental dialogue and advancing African integration. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the 38th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Governments of the African Union holds significant importance as it will oversee the elections of the chairperson and the deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission. Over the past years, the African Union has made remarkable progress in conflict resolution, mediation, and peacekeeping efforts, contributing to greater stability across the continent. Economic transformation has been further strengthened through the African Continental Free Trade Area and accession to the G20, contributing towards the implementation of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, having said so, the program of today's opening ceremony will stand as follows. We will have a statement by His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, followed by a statement by His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, following which a statement by His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. We shall then have a statement by His Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine. Then His Excellency Mahmoud Wil Sheikh Al Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union, will make his opening remarks. Immediately after that, we will call the Dean of African Ambassadors in Ethiopia to introduce the new Bureau, members of the African Union Assembly, following which we shall have the handover ceremony for the chairperson of the African Union. Then we will go to the launch of the African Union theme of the year, Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations. Without any further ado, I have the great honor and privilege to invite His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency, the floor is yours. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, President Mohammed Ould, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellency, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, diplomats, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ethiopia, the cradle of Pan-Africanism and a proud champion of African unity and freedom. It is an honor to stand before you today as we reflect on the immense potential we hold, not just as individual nations, but as a united and dynamic continent. In a world marked by rapid change and multiple challenges, we find ourselves at a crossroads of uncertainty and opportunity. This moment calls upon us to strengthen our collective resolve, embrace resilience, and foster unity across Africa. The theme for this year's assembly calls on us to heal the scars of historical injustice and overcome lingering trauma that has long hindered our progress. The demand for reparations is not about charity or financial aid. It is a call for justice. It seeks to restore the dignity of millions and heal the deep scars of poverty, inequality, and discrimination. It demands an end to the systematic exploitation of our wealth, resources, and opportunities. It also calls for a transformative process that acknowledges past harms and takes bold steps to right the wrongs caused upon us, upon society across the continent. Thank you. Thank you. Most importantly, the call for reparations requires not just words, but concrete actions to affirm the equal worth of every human being. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to achieve lasting peace, justice, and prosperity, we must rise above the geopolitical tensions and the historical divisions imposed upon us by colonial borders. By fostering solidarity among all of our nations and embracing a shared destiny, we can pool our resources and talents to unlock our continent's full potential. Africa's cultural, ethnic, and linguistic diversity is a source of pride and strength upon which we must build inclusive governance and equitable development. Conflict resolution, diplomacy, and peace building must remain at the heart of our efforts. By championing African solutions to African challenges, we can secure lasting peace and stability. Let us celebrate our achievements in politics, science, economics, and arts. Strategic initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Area give us the tools to boost intra-Africa trade, reduce external dependency, and achieve self-reliance. With Africa's large and dynamic use, abundant natural resources, and growing technological innovations, we have all the means to ensure sustainable growth. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, particularly generative AI, offers unprecedented opportunities to transform our economies and societies. By collaborating in AI, fintech, renewable energy, and mobile technology, we can address shared challenges such as climate change, infrastructure gaps, and public health crisis. Africa's rich and diverse data sets are essential for training robust and inclusive AI models. This highlights the importance of African representation in shaping future technologies. However, as we embrace these advancements, it's essential to protect our data sovereignty, prevent digital exploitation, and develop homegrown AI solutions that reflect African values and contexts. As our data sets grow, so must our capacity to harness them for local and global good. When used responsibly, AI can be a powerful tool in conflict prevention, transparent governance, and inclusive development. Africa must actively participate in the global technology race to ensure we are competitive players in the evolving digital landscape, while also ensuring we benefit equitably from this technological revolution. Furthermore, Africa's voice on global issues must grow stronger, ensuring that we have a say in shaping governance frameworks and other much-needed reforms in the global order. By empowering grassroots movements, youth networks, and educational programs focused on digital literacy and technological innovation, we can inspire the next generation. This will ensure Africa stands not just as a beneficiary of a global advancement, but as a key contributor in shaping the future of humanity. Excellencies, the opportunities before us are immense. Ethiopia is determined to prosper, guided by a vision of vibrant democracy, sustainable economic growth, rich cultural heritage, social progress, and a deep commitment to environmental regeneration. To realize this goal, we have laid out a pragmatic roadmap rooted in the transformative principles of Maddamar. Maddamar, an Amharic term loosely translated as synergy, is our guiding philosophy. It is a homegrown ideology that promotes prosperity, unity, sovereignty, security, and national dignity. At its core, Maddamar encourages social and economic advancement, celebrates diversity, and nurtures a spirit of community grounded in Ethiopia's rich culture, spirituality, and values. Reflecting on the progress of the past 5 years and building on the vision of Maddamar, Ethiopia has made remarkable strides. Despite inheriting a nation deeply divided along ethnic lines, burdened by substantial debt, and facing numerous internal challenges, we have moved forward with determination. At the same time, we navigated a complex and ever-changing regional and international landscape. Yet, through resilience and cooperation, we continue to move closer to the realization of our shared vision of prosperity. Our achievements speak for themselves. Allow me to share a few highlights. We have reformed our political system, transforming into an inclusive multi-party framework that reflects the diversity of our nation. To deepen these reforms and foster cohesion, reconciliation, and peace, we are undertaking a national dialogue. On the economic front, we have built a resilient and diverse economy. Over the past 5 years, we have doubled our cultivated land, increasing crop production to nearly 700 million quintals, with the wheat accounting for 40% of this total. These efforts have strengthened food security and driven rural development. Today, Ethiopia is the largest wheat producer in Africa. Thank you. Through collective efforts, we have reduced external debt by over 50%, double both GDP and GDP per capita, and tripled government revenue in 5 years, with an 8.1% growth reported in the most recent fiscal year. Across the country, our major cities are evolving into dynamic, culturally rich, and sustainable hubs. In education, we have established 40,000 kindergartens and primary schools to boost early childhood education. Additionally, we have launched a program to train 5 million coders to strengthen our digital economy. Furthermore, we strive to honor our heritage by restoring national sites, developing tourist destinations, and reclaiming cultural artifacts, fulfilling our duty as the guardians of our nation's treasures. These accomplishments reflect the unwavering spirit and resilience of the Ethiopian people and underscore our firm commitment to advancing Ethiopia's future. With its focus on unity, cooperation, innovation, and shared progress, Maddamar can serve as a guiding framework for our Pan-African agenda. By embracing its principles, we can forge a path toward a more just, equitable, and prosperous future for all Africans. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us march forward with determination, harnessing the limitless potential of our continent and its people. The time is now to claim our future, build a legacy of equality and prosperity, and secure dignity for all. Let us be the generation that unites the continent and our diaspora in a shared vision of justice, prosperity, and peace. To conclude, I thank our outgoing chairperson, President Mohammed Ould, for his leadership and representing our organization on the global stage. Allow me to also warmly congratulate our newly chairperson, President Joao Lorenzo, and wish him success during his tenure. I would also like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed for his exemplary leadership as chairperson of the African Union Commission over the past 8 years. Throughout his tenure, His Excellency Musa Faki has shown unwavering commitment to Africa's development, peace, and integration, significantly strengthening the African Union's role in addressing the continent's challenge. I also extend my sincere thanks to him for being a steadfast friend of Ethiopia, supporting us not only during our times of success, but also in our moments of difficulty. Thank you, my brother. As we bid farewell to His Excellency Musa Faki, it is with great pleasure that I extend a warm welcome to our incoming chairperson of the African Union Commission here in Ethiopia. I am confident that under his leadership, we will continue to make great strides toward achieving our collective goals. I wish him every success during his mandate. Thank you for your attention, and I wish us all a fruitful summit. God bless Ethiopia. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your statement, and thank you for the generous hospitality extended to our Excellencies, heads of states and governments, as well as distinguished delegates. Thank you. And now allow me to invite with great honor and pleasure His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Excellences, Monsieur Mohammed Ould Cheikh Al-Ghazouani, Président de la République islamique de Mauritanie, Président en exercice de l'Union africaine, Excellence Dr Abiy Ahmed, Premier ministre de la République d'Éthiopie, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État, de gouvernement et de délégation, Excellence Monsieur Mahmoud Abbas, Président de l'État de Palestine, ma très chère sœur amie Mia, Premier ministre de Barbados, Excellence Monsieur Antonio Guterres, Secrétaire général des Nations Unies, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Docteur Nkosazana Zuma, ancienne présidente de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Madame la vice-présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs les commissaires, Mesdames et Messieurs les secrétaires généraux et exécutifs des communautés économiques régionales et mécanismes régionaux, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs exécutifs des organes et institutions spécialisées de l'Union africaine, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs des missions diplomatiques, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs. C'est à la fois avec un grand honneur et un immense plaisir que je m'adresse à vous aujourd'hui pour la dernière fois en ma qualité de président de la Commission de l'Union africaine. Je voudrais tout d'abord, puisque nous sommes encore au début de l'année nouvelle 2025, présenter à vos excellences, vos familles et vos peuples, au nom de tous les personnels de l'Union africaine, mes meilleurs vœux de santé, de prospérité et de succès. Je voudrais aussi exprimer mes sincères remerciements aux présidents en exercice avec lesquels j'ai successivement travaillé ces 8 dernières années. J'ai nommé dans l'ordre de leur présidence Alpha Condé, Paul Kagame, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Cyril Ramaphosa, Antoine Félix Tshisekedi, Macky Sall, Azali Assoumani et Mohamed Ould-Cheikh Al-Ghazouani. En cet instant de remembrance, je ne peux oublier le président Idriss Déby Itno, paix à son âme, qui, en africaniste convaincu, a eu l'initiative de ma candidature à la tête de la Commission et qui s'est investi sans compter pour un tel destin pour moi. Sa mort tragique a été ma plus atroce douleur de ce double mandat. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, 8 ans se sont écoulés depuis mon élection fin janvier 2017 comme président de la Commission de l'Union africaine. En ces moments chargés d'historicité, de signification et de symboles, je voudrais m'acquitter du devoir moral de vous présenter les grandes lignes du bilan de ce double mandat. Grâce à ces parcours, je me suis profondément imprégné à la fois de ce qui fait la grandeur et le rayonnement de notre continent, de notre organisation continentale, ainsi que des pesanteurs et limites diverses ayant entraîné le rythme de nos cadences. J'ai sillonné ce beau et fantastique continent. J'éprouve une profonde fierté d'avoir visité au moins une fois tous les 55 membres de notre Union. L'opportunité que m'offre ce moment est historique et unique. J'y tenterai de m'acquitter de la double obligation de rendre compte et de m'interroger sur quelques problématiques en ayant bien conscience qu'il ne faut absolument pas abuser de votre temps si précieux. Un rapport consolidé de notre bilan et un rapport annuel vous ont été distribués conformément à notre réglementation. Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, les rapides et intenses bouleversements géopolitiques qui ont caractérisé le contexte international durant mes 2 mandats ont eu des manifestations à la fois violentes et déstabilisatrices. La subite dégradation de la situation sanitaire consécutive au déclenchement de la Covid-19 s'est accompagnée malheureusement d'importants chocs et de profondes turbulences économiques et diplomatiques. Pour l'Afrique, cela s'est traduit par une aggravation du poids de la dette, de la baisse des flux d'investissement publics et privés, de la violence et de la prégnance de certains conflits africains, de l'affaissement du panafricanisme et des chaînes de solidarité africaines, des manifestations d'obsolescence des institutions africaines, des appétits extérieurs en Afrique, des déficiences patentes en matière de gouvernance et de leadership en Afrique et même dans le monde, de la crise du multilatéralisme post-Seconde Guerre mondiale, etc., etc. La guerre russo-ukrainienne, enclenchée en février 2022, est venue noircir davantage ces tableaux, annonçant une recomposition géopolitique mondiale. Est née une ligne de fracture qui a suscité une forme de bipolarité qui, dans les imaginaires politiques, évoque la réalité pourtant théoriquement dépassée de la guerre froide. Des incertitudes profondes sur la soutenabilité de la paix et de la coopération internationale ont empoisonné les esprits, assombri les consciences et ont renforcé le pessimisme, les égoïsmes et le pragmatisme mercantile. Les conséquences de cette guerre ont profondément affecté l'Afrique, qui importait l'essentiel de sa consommation céréalière et ses intrants agricoles de ces deux pays, la Russie et l'Ukraine. Le spectre de l'insécurité alimentaire et sanitaire a plané sur bien de nos pays, dont un bon nombre continue de souffrir de leur fragilité structurelle. أصحاب الفخامة والمعالي السادة سيداتي وسادتي، وفي الشرق الأوسط فإن الشعب الفلسطيني الشقيق عانى ويعاني أبشع أنواع الظلم في التاريخ البشري. إن الحرب الفظيعة والجائرة التي دمرت كل شيء في فلسطين وخاصة في غزة، واستمرار حرمان هذا الشعب من حقوقه الأساسية في الاستقلال والسلام والوجود والحياة بكل بساطة، لا تشكل عاراً جسيماً لكل الإنسانية. ورغم ذلك كله ظل الشعب الفلسطيني البطل صامداً، كما ظل الاتحاد الإفريقي في جانبه بكل قوة وحزم. هنيئا لك يا أخي الرئيس أبو مازن. Ces paysages d'apocalypse qu'offre aujourd'hui la Palestine, la bande et la population de Gaza en particulier, après plus d'une année de guerre destructrice de toute forme de vie et de biens, continue de se dérouler dans le silence presque total des puissances du monde, si ce n'est l'appel par certains à la déportation systématique des Palestiniens hors de leurs terres. C'est le comble. C'est vraiment le comble. Ce drame inouï pèse aujourd'hui, malgré le cessez-le-feu et la libération des otages et prisonniers, facilité par le Qatar, l'Égypte et les États-Unis, sur la conscience universelle et questionne profondément sur notre humanité. Les taux de la mondialisation avancée, étouffante, déshumanisée, ne laissent point l'Afrique en dehors de l'élite hégémonique qui se déroule loin de sa terre. Bien au contraire, le continent en subit les débordements et fragmentations que traduisent les conflits par procuration, des soutiens des puissances extérieures à peine voilées aux parties belligérantes sur le continent, des expansions du terrorisme et de l'extrémisme violent, des poursuites de la guerre ravageuse au Soudan, à l'est de la République démocratique du Congo, des divisions de la Libye dont je salue l'adoption hier ici même de la charte de réconciliation. Félicitations à vous, Monsieur le Président Danou Sassou Nguesso. Les tensions de tous ordres au Sahel, au bassin du lac Tchad, au golfe de Guinée, au Mozambique, à la Corne de l'Afrique et dans la région des Grands Lacs sont un autre pan de ces chapelets embrasiers des crises africaines. Les flux de réfugiés politiques, économiques, environnementaux et autres personnes déplacées internes viennent accentuer la situation sécuritaire, alimentaire et sanitaire déjà fragile de nombreux États membres. C'est à ce contexte mondial et régional fortement dégradé que nous avons été confrontés au cours des 8 dernières années de développement de notre action. Excellences, Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, la réforme institutionnelle de notre Union entamée en 2017 ambitionnait la création de conditions optimales pour garantir la poursuite efficiente des programmes inscrits dans notre boussole doctrinale stratégique, l'agenda 2063, aux fins d'une meilleure résistance aux défis ainsi identifiés. À ce titre, la reconfiguration du leadership de la Commission, un processus d'évaluation des performances du personnel, des rapports de collaboration plus étroits entre l'Union africaine et les communautés économiques régionales et mécanismes régionaux, actés par un nouveau protocole, l'institutionnalisation d'un sommet de coordination dédié à l'intégration, la mise en place des groupes techniques R10 et F15 chargés de veiller à la qualité des ressources humaines recrutées et au respect des règles d'or de la gestion budgétaire, financière et comptable de l'Union ont été les points saillants de cette réforme. Une évaluation de la pertinence de tous les organes de l'Union, sans exception aucune, fera naître une nouvelle cartographie administrative et institutionnelle de l'Union. J'insiste ici, en particulier, sur 3 parmi ces organes. Le Parlement panafricain, le Conseil de paix et de sécurité et le Comité des représentants permanents. Le mouvement d'ensemble de la réforme, avec ses ombres et lumières, confirme sa pertinence et sa nature nécessairement progressive à se déployer sur le long terme. C'est une exigence d'adaptation perpétuelle des structures de notre Union aux évolutions qui caractérisent le monde. Je voudrais ici remercier les présidents Paul Kagame et William Ruto pour leurs remarquables efforts pour faire avancer cette réforme. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, l'évaluation de la première décennie de mise en œuvre de l'agenda 2063, couvrant la période allant de 2014 à 2023, révèle les progrès sectoriels accomplis dans notre marche vers la construction de l'Afrique que nous voulons. Il est crucial d'en tirer les vraies leçons et de procéder aux ajustements pertinents subséquents. Dans le domaine de la santé, c'est une approche holistique, traduite sur le terrain à travers des actions auréolées de succès. Avec la survenance de la pandémie de la COVID-19, Africa CDC s'est affirmée comme l'instrument le plus efficace de la lutte contre toutes les maladies. La préoccupante question du financement de la santé continue de nous préoccuper. 2 mécanismes de financement de la couverture sanitaire universelle et celle de la lutte contre la malnutrition sur le continent ont été conçus. Grâce au Centre africain des vaccins vétérinaires, PANVAC, dont le nouveau laboratoire de production de vaccins a été inauguré en février 2024, une avancée significative dans le domaine de l'élevage, de la santé animale et du développement socio-économique a été réalisée. L'Agence africaine des médicaments, AMA, a commencé l'installation de son siège à Kigali et ses activités sont sur la rampe de lancement. La médecine traditionnelle a bénéficié de l'élaboration de 2 plans décennaux, le dernier courant de 2025 à 2035. Le champ de l'éducation a été animé par la volonté de concevoir un nouveau système éducatif pensé en fonction des exigences d'un monde où l'enjeu majeur est devenu la compétition autour de l'innovation scientifique, technologique et maintenant par l'intelligence artificielle. C'est en cohérence avec cette âme que des stratégies diverses et complémentaires ont été développées, notamment lors de la conférence de Nouakchott de l'année 2024, initiée par la présidence en exercice la Mauritanie, en collaboration avec la Commission de l'Union africaine et d'autres partenaires, dont l'UNICEF et l'UNESCO en particulier. La centralité des problématiques genre et jeunesse a été affirmée. Les envoyés spéciaux femmes et jeunes se sont bien implantés dans l'univers institutionnel du leadership de l'organisation. Tout au long des 8 années de ce double mandat, bien d'autres domaines cruciaux ont retenu toute l'attention qu'ils méritent, de par leur importance pour le développement socio-économique de l'Afrique. Qu'il s'agisse de notre vision sur les questions minières, du programme détaillé de l'agriculture et de l'économie bleue, du développement des infrastructures et de l'énergie, du changement climatique avec l'adaptation et la résilience climatique du continent, de l'intégration régionale à travers la mise en œuvre de la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine, de l'opérationnalisation effective du Fonds de la paix qui a dépassé l'objectif de 400 millions de dollars, du traitement des crises humanitaires dont l'Afrique est l'épicentre avec la mise en place de l'Agence africaine humanitaire, du renforcement de la visibilité de l'Union africaine à travers notre partenariat avec les Nations unies. Tous ont été au centre de notre entreprise collective. Je profite de l'occasion pour rendre ici un hommage tout particulier à un artisan majeur de ces partenariats. J'ai nommé Antonio Guterres, un grand ami de l'Afrique. Merci Antonio. L'accession de l'Union africaine au G20 et les BRICS, dont plusieurs États africains sont membres, est venue couronner cette visibilité. Sur toutes ces questions, les structures spécialisées de l'Union africaine et les États membres ont mené des réflexions approfondies et tracé des perspectives claires pour certaines et rendu concrètes bien d'autres. Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, il y a quelques mois, j'ai adressé à vos Excellences une lettre relative à quelques urgences centrales dans le devenir de notre Union et de ses capacités de réaliser au mieux possible nos objectifs. Je pense ici d'abord au Conseil de paix et sécurité, évoqué plus haut. Son rôle devrait s'accomplir sur la base des textes qui régissent son fonctionnement, dont il tire la force et la légitimité de concevoir, d'encadrer les questions prégnantes de notre sécurité collective et d'imposer, si nécessaire, les sanctions requises le cas échéant. Il est fort regrettable que ces décisions soient parfois contraires à nos principes et lorsqu'elles ne le sont pas, restent souvent lettre morte. Les décisions de cet organe continental central ne sauraient être considérées avec désinvolture et négligence par les États membres, ni par une conception et des pratiques biaisées des communautés économiques régionales au nom du principe galvaudé d'une subsidiarité interprétée de façon intéressée et partisane. L'évocation du CPS renvoie à la question des changements non constitutionnels du gouvernement. À cet égard, j'ai mentionné dans la dite lettre que nous n'avons plus désormais que deux options. Soit abandonner les principes qui régissent actuellement cette problématique, soit les appliquer sérieusement, quitte à les réviser et les adapter à nos besoins et réalités nouvelles. Nous ne pouvons, pour notre crédibilité, continuer à ressasser telle une litanie ces principes tout en les piétinant ou acceptant leur flagrante et constante violation. Il n'y a rien de plus corrosif de notre crédibilité qu'une telle attitude qui a conduit ces derniers temps à une véritable défiance vis-à-vis des règles et principes et fragiliser l'intégration dans une partie du continent. J'ai mentionné également le marasme persistant et paralysant de notre insupportable division en matière de représentation en relation avec nos partenariats dits stratégiques. J'appelais ici encore à choisir l'une des deux options qui s'y présentent pour nous et dont j'ai présenté clairement les termes dans ma lettre. J'avais également mentionné la question récurrente du financement de l'organisation, laquelle paradoxalement contraste avec les tendances continues de multiplication des organes sans souci de leur financement. Une organisation indépendante et gardienne de notre liberté et de notre souveraineté ne saurait se construire par le financement d'autrui. J'avais également soulevé la réduction privative d'initiative du président de la Commission de l'Union africaine et appelé à son harmonisation avec les obligations légales et coutumières qui s'imposent désormais à lui. En somme, l'essence de ma correspondance est simple, est peut-être brutale. C'est la question d'être dignement ou ne pas être dans notre organisation, placée devant une terrible conjugaison de facteurs de complexité. Ce sont toutes ces questions auxquelles vous faites face aujourd'hui que j'ai voulu pudiquement poser dans ma lettre. Allons-nous enfin ouvrir les yeux sur le sort de notre organisation ou alors continuer à la laisser se lamenter et gémir? Excellences, Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est une vérité banale aujourd'hui d'affirmer que les concepts et les instruments juridiques servant de cadre d'analyse des dynamiques de la politique internationale contemporaine sont périmés. Ils ont perdu leur vertu à la fois structurante et explicative des phénomènes mondiaux actuels. Un tel constat explique pourquoi les débats portent aujourd'hui sur les modalités d'avènement d'une nouvelle gouvernance économique et politique mondiale. L'Afrique ne peut rester muette et inactive. Elle doit impérativement se jeter dans la bataille pour se tailler sa place propre dans les configurations en cours de recomposition. Ce n'est pas facile. Cela demandera de l'ingéniosité, de la créativité, de la méthode, du courage. Plus généralement, cela demandera une vraie rédemption pour un réveil de la conscience et de l'âme du panafricanisme. Celui de la conscience de notre africanité, celui de la fierté de notre africanité, celui de l'attachement à notre africanité, celui du rejet de notre dépersonnalisation et de notre servilité nihiliste, de notre identité et de notre être. C'est à quoi nous appelle la jeunesse africaine. Celle-ci, majoritaire dans tous nos États, est de plus en plus exigeante. Sa voix résonne de plus en plus fort grâce aux nouvelles formes de communication qui amplifient toutes les expressions. Cette jeunesse africaine nous interpelle et nous fait constamment un procès en déphasage de ses aspirations, qui sont celles d'une Afrique ouverte sur elle-même et unie, souveraine dans ses politiques et choix, debout et solidaire. Cette solidarité a toujours été notre planche de salut dans notre combat contre le colonialisme et l'apartheid et le parachèvement de notre indépendance. Nous venons de nous incliner sur la mémoire d'un de ces grands combattants, Sam Nujoma. Ça doit nous rappeler quelque chose, mesdames et messieurs. La foi dans notre solidarité panafricaine a galvanisé nos consciences, nos volontés et nos intelligences pour nous conduire vers un destin commun plus prometteur. Il n'y a pas de nouvelle voie de notre futur que d'écouter et de donner corps aux aspirations de notre jeunesse, nos concitoyens et notre diaspora. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, je quitte définitivement mes fonctions dans quelques jours. J'avoue que je me sens envahi par un doux sentiment de liberté qui m'autorise ces quelques mots venant du cœur. Le premier est un mot de profonde gratitude à vos excellences pour la confiance que vous m'avez accordée en m'élisant pour 2 mandats successifs, président de la Commission de l'Union africaine. Soyez assurés que j'ai mesuré et je mesure toujours toutes les dimensions de cette confiance et du lourd poids de la gratitude et la reconnaissance subséquente. Le deuxième mot porte sur l'autre et moi. Dans cet autre, je pense d'abord à nos partenaires, surtout ceux qui nous ont offert une amitié sincère et une coopération mutuellement avantageuse. Je voudrais les remercier tous et leur exprimer notre gratitude. Je pense ensuite à vous ici présents, ainsi qu'à ceux qui nous ont quittés pour différentes raisons. Nous avons réalisé de bonnes et grandes choses, et surtout avons, autant que faire se peut, respecter une certaine éthique et une ligne de conduite que nous croyons conforme à nos principes et objectifs. Veuillez accepter toute ma reconnaissance. Les membres de la commission de l'Union africaine, D'autres hommes et femmes, ensuite, y ont travaillé, souvent dans l'ombre, avec assiduité, dévouement, discipline et talent. Je voudrais leur rendre l'hommage qu'ils méritent. Le troisième mot est relatif à mes propres limites. J'ai tant voulu faire vite et mieux au cours des 2 mandats que vous m'avez confiés. Je sais que je n'ai pas tout fait. Peut-être ai-je sous-estimé la lourdeur de la tâche et le poids des pesanteurs. Je sais que j'ai peut-être commis des erreurs. Je ne devrais peut-être pas dire peut-être. J'ai certainement commis des erreurs. Peut-être ai-je ici ou là faibli ou m'étais trompé et manqué des occasions de faire mieux. Je voudrais m'en excuser et demander pardon si mes manquements ont causé un quelconque tort individuel ou collectif. Le 4e mot est relatif à mon sentiment de l'instant. Je suis heureux de reprendre ma liberté. Mais je sais que j'aurai aussi la nostalgie des lieux, des femmes et des hommes que j'y ai connus, du peuple éthiopien à la civilisation millénaire. À vous, mon cher Dr Abiy Ahmed, Betam Amesegnalem. Peut-être faudra-t-il écrire l'histoire de tout cet enchevêtrement de sentiments et de sensations. Enfin, mon 5e mot est celui de mon serment, de continuer à servir, de penser à l'Afrique, à servir l'Afrique, à rêver pour elle, pour sa jeunesse à laquelle nous n'avons pas fait suffisamment et à laquelle nous devons faire beaucoup, car après tout, c'est elle qui compte aujourd'hui et davantage demain. Un mot de la fin à vous, Monsieur le Président et cher frère Mohamed Cheikh Al-Ghazouani, pour vous dire combien j'ai apprécié votre proximité tout au long de votre mandat. Vous avez été un maître de sagesse, de civisme et de hauteur, inspirant à tous égards. À vous, Monsieur le Président et cher frère João Lourenço, je me permets de souligner que la force tranquille que vous symbolisez me rassure sur une présidence en exercice de sérieux et de substance. Puissiez-vous tous les deux en particulier, et nous tous, avoir une pensée agissante pour les grands prisonniers du Sahel, le président Mohamed Bazoum, dont rien ne justifie l'interminable détention. Il doit être libéré sans condition. Plein succès à notre sommet, plein succès à notre prochain leadership. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you for your statement. Thank you for your unwavering commitment. Thank you for dedication towards Africa's peace, development, and unity. Thank you very much. I will now have the honor to invite His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Monsieur le Président de l'Union africaine, Excellences, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. President Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, thank you for your leadership in the outstanding exercise of your mandate. Presidente João Lourenço, parabéns e aguardo com expectativa a oportunidade de trabalhar consigo como novo Presidente da União Africana. I also want to give a very special expression of gratitude to the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki, for his 8 years of strong and permanent commitment to multilateralism and impeccable cooperation with the United Nations. Cher Moussa, travailler avec toi est un privilège, un plaisir et un honneur. Excellencies, the partnership between the African Union and the United Nations has never been stronger. Together, we see an Africa booming with hope and possibility. You have a booming, enterprising population, including the largest number of young people in the world. The African continental free trade is poised to turbocharge the region's economy, and calls to address the legacies of colonialism and slavery are growing louder, as reflected in your theme this year, and as reflected in the leadership of so many passionate voices for the liberation of Africa, such as the great Dr. Sam Nujoma of Namibia, whose life we celebrate and whose loss we mourn. The world must never forget that Africa is the victim of two colossal and compounded injustices. First, the profound impact of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. The roots stretch back centuries, and the bitter fruit continues to affect Africans and people of African descent to this day. Decolonization alone in itself was not a panacea. Political independence did not free countries from structures based on exploitation and decades of economic, social, and institutional underinvestment. It is high time for reparatory justice frameworks to be put in place. Second, Africa was under colonial domination when today's multilateral system was created, and that injustice endures. Look no further than the United Nations Security Council. There is no excuse that Africa still lacks permanent representation in the 21st century. I will keep working with the African Union and all member states to ensure the representation Africa needs and the justice you deserve, including with 2 permanent members of the Security Council. And we will keep pressing together for an international financial architecture that is no longer outdated, dysfunctional, and unfair. Correcting age-old injustices is essential to address here and now challenges. And the good news is that we have many of the solutions we need. Last year, you helped drive that effort at the United Nations with the Pact for the Future. And I thank Africa for its support that was vital to approve the Pact. Our task now is to make those commitments a reality. South Africa's G20 chairmanship could not come at a better time. Let me point to 4 areas for action. First, we must push for peace, security, and alleviating appalling levels of human suffering. Sudan is being torn apart before our eyes and is now home to the world's largest displacement crisis and famine. As we near the holy months of Ramadan, it is time for an immediate cessation of hostilities. And the international community must come together to stop the flow of weapons and the bankrolling of bloodshed. In the Democratic Republic of the Congolese people have been suffering yet again from a brutal cycle of violence. And the fighting that is raging in South Kivu as a result of the continuation of the M23 offensive threatens to push the entire region over the precipice. Regional escalation must be avoided at all costs. There is no military solution. The deadlock must end, the dialogue must begin, and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the DRC must be respected. The conclusions of the recent joint EAC-SADC summit offer a way forward, with a renewed call for an immediate ceasefire and new momentum for regional efforts based on the Luanda and Nairobi processes. Now is the time for swift implementation. And you can count on the continued support of the United Nations, including MONUSCO. In the Sahel, the clear and present threat of terrorism is undermining peace, security, and sustainable development. And in Somalia, we are urging predictable funding for the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission, and I hope that our voice will be heard by the Security Council. And as we gather here in Africa, I know all our minds are also very much on Gaza. A resumption of hostilities must be avoided at all costs. The Palestinian people have suffered too much. I welcome efforts by the parties to abide by the ceasefire agreement and urge action for a permanent ceasefire and the release of all hostages. Peace is possible in the Middle East, and that starts with tangible, irreversible, and permanent progress towards the two-state solution, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. Excellencies, on all fronts, we stand shoulder to shoulder with the African Union to advance security, stability, human rights, and rule of law. Excellencies, second, we must keep working together to deliver the AU 2063 agenda and the 2030 agenda for sustainable development and drive action on finance. African countries pay up to 8 times more to borrow than developed countries, and 20 are in or at risk of debt distress. The Pact for the Future supports an international financial architecture reform to reflect today's economy, ensuring fair representation and urging effective action on debt relief. And I will stand with Africa as a matter of justice and to right the historic wrongs. Excellencies, third, the climate crisis. Climate disasters are tearing across Africa, destroying lives, upending livelihoods, devastating economies, and inflaming conflict. At the same time, the renewables revolution is unstoppable, and Africa is poised to become a global clean energy powerhouse. Yet, today, Africa receives just 2% of global renewables investment. Realizing Africa's potential requires access to affordable finance, including by implementing the COP29 finance decision fully and on time, and supporting development of a roadmap to realize $1.3 trillion a year. Excellencies, Africa has contributed little to the climate crisis, yet is paying the price with record droughts, floods, and heat. Climate justice requires a massive investment in adaptation, with the international community bearing an enormous responsibility. Developed countries must double adaptation finance, and countries must significantly boost the loss and damage fund. Allow me a note. When the Loss and Damage Fund was created, the pledging conference that took place has allowed for an amount that is equivalent at the highest contract for a basketball player in the United States. It is absolutely necessary to make the Loss and Damage Fund an effective instrument to support developing countries in adaptation. And we also need justice when it comes to your abundant critical minerals. Too often, your countries are plundered, bound to the bottom of value chains as others grow rich on your resources. The work of the United Nations Panel on Critical Energy Transition Minerals is designed to help embed justice, sustainability, and human rights across the value chain. Africa's minerals must benefit Africa's people. Excellences, enfin, nous devons agir dans le domaine des nouvelles technologies, notamment l'intelligence artificielle. Près de 2/3 de la population africaine sont privés d'un accès fiable à l'Internet. Nous avons une responsabilité historique, faire en sorte que l'intelligence artificielle profite à l'humanité tout entière et pas seulement à quelques privilégiés, États et compagnie. Le pacte numérique mondial partage les ambitions du pacte numérique africain. Connectivité universelle, renforcement des capacités et une gouvernance responsable de l'intelligence artificielle. Je présenterai bientôt un rapport sur les modèles innovants de financement volontaire et les initiatives de renforcement des capacités afin d'aider les pays du Sud global à exploiter l'intelligence artificielle pour le bien commun. Ensemble, assurons-nous que les promesses seront tenues. Excellences, l'Union africaine et l'ONU sont unis et déterminés à rendre justice à votre continent sans laisser personne de côté. Nous disposons de bases solides pour aller de l'avant. Alors, ensemble, concrétisons ces engagements. Et permettez-moi de dire une dernière phrase dans ma langue maternelle. Digamos com uma só voz, viva África!
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your statement. We highly appreciate your leadership in strengthening the African Union-United Nations partnership. Thank you. السيدات والسادة أصحاب الفخامة والمعالي، يسعدني ويشرفني أن أرحب اليوم بفخامة السيد الرئيس محمود عباس أبو مازن رئيس دولة فلسطين، فلتتفضلوا مشكورين بإلقاء كلمتكم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فخامة الرئيس محمد ولد الغزواني رئيس جمهورية موريتانيا، رئيس القمة الإفريقية، دولة رئيس الوزراء الأثيوبي السيد آبي أحمد، معالي السيد محمود سفكي، رئيس مفوضية الاتحاد الإفريقي معالي السيد أنطونيو غوتيريش، السيد آبي أحمد، معالي السيد محموسة فكي رئيس مفوضية الاتحاد الإفريقي، معالي السيد أنطونيو غوتيريش الأمين العام للأمم المتحدة، أصحاب الفخامة والمعالي الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Good morning to all of you. At the outset, I wish to extend our congratulations to Excellency President João Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, for becoming the chairperson of the African Union for the year 2025. We wish him full success. We extend our thanks to His Excellency President Mohammed Ould El-Ghazouani for his chairmanship of the previous session of
عميقا لشعوب وقيادات دول إفريقيا التي نفتخر بصداقتها، والتي كانت ولا تزال داعما مخلصا لنضالنا العادل من أجل الحرية والاستقلال. القادة ورؤساء الوفود، في الوقت الذي نعمل فيه ومعنا دول العالم ومنظماته الدولية لتثبيت وقف إطلاق النار وتقديم المزيد من المساعدات الإنسانية وتولي دولة فلسطين مهامها في قطاع غزة ومساعدة النازحين للعودة إلى مناطقهم وتأمين مقومات الحياة لشعبنا الأصيل في قطاع غزة والتجهيز لإعادة الإعمار، تخرج علينا دعوات لانتزاع شعبنا من أرضه وتهجيره والمساس بسيادة دول أخرى، دعوات هدفها إلهاء العالم عن جرائم الحرب والإبادة الجماعية والتدمير في غزة وجرائم الاستيطان والمستوطنين وسرقة الأرض الفلسطينية.
The world from the war crimes and the genocide and the destruction in Gaza, in addition to the crimes of colonization and the settlers grab land and annexation, in addition to attacks against holy shrines in the occupied territories and Jerusalem. These are carried out by the forces of occupation and the gangs of settlers. The aim is to destroy the possibility of a two-state solution for the Palestinian cause. Today, more than 2,300,000 people live in Gaza, including 1,500,000 refugees, 1,500,000 refugees who were forced to leave their country in 1948. They suffered from more than 50 massacres by the terrorist Zionist gangs. The only place they can go back to is their cities and villages from which they were expelled during the Nakba. In implementation of UN Resolution 194. which calls for the return of Palestinian refugees to the cities and the villages from which they were deported, and that they would be compensated for the harm they suffered. We reaffirm our complete rejection for all the calls aimed at deporting the Palestinian people from its land. This will keep the region in the cycle of violence instead of going to peace creation. It is an illusion for people to believe that they can have a new century agreement or to deport our people by occupying our land. In this regard, we hail the positions of the countries that rejected the calls for deporting our people from their land and stood by our side to defend their rights. We highly hail the position of the African Union and its member states in this regard. The Israeli colonial practices mean that we need to have an urgent action by the international community and the Security Council before the forces of radicalism disseminate to kill the two-state solution. Heads of state and delegation, the Palestinian cause is the cause of a people seeking freedom and independence. Our commitment to international legality and the side agreements, including the implementation of the vision based on a two-state solution, mean that we need to end the Israeli occupation that occupies with military power the land of the state of Palestine and its Al-Quds, the eastern part of Al-Quds. There is the UN Resolution 338, also UN Resolution 242, and the Arab Peace Initiative, whose aim is to enable the people of the region to live in peace and security. All of this in implementation of the consultative opinion of the International Court of Justice, which has stipulated the illegality of occupation and that it should be ended in 12 months. This was decided by the International Court of Justice. There's also the decision by the UN General Assembly and the call for a conference that will take place in Geneva next month. I call upon the AU member states on this occasion to participate in this important conference. Heads of government and delegation, the achievement of peace and security requires from all of us to effectively participate in the global alliance to implement the two-state solution and to support the International Conference for Peace that will take place in the United Nations by the middle of next June. Under the dual chairmanship of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and France. This will be an opportunity to mobilize international resources for the international recognition of the State of Palestine and to obtain our full membership in the United Nations. We have not been able to achieve this because of the vetoes of the United States. Our aim is to implement the two-state solution based on international legality. The holding of the AU summit and the theme of justice through compensation reflects your authentic commitment to justice as a universal human value. It is a commitment whose echoes are seen in your continuous support to the Palestinian people who are still suffering from the last form of colonization in the world. We are the only ones living under colonization. You lived under this colonization, but you were liberated. Finally, we reiterate our thanks to the African Union and the member states for their continued support to the struggle of the Palestinian people to cherish their freedom and independence. And we wish your summit full success and more prosperity for the African people and their free peoples. Thank you very much for your attention.
Shukran.
Thank you, Excellency President of the State of Palestine, Abu Mazen, for your statement, your participation. Mr. President confirms the continued support of the African Union to the Palestinian cause, support in full support.
I invite His Excellency Mohammed Wuld Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union, to deliver his opening remarks. Excellency.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة على سيدنا محمد. أصحاب الفخامة.
Excellencies, heads of state and government, Excellency Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine, Mrs. Mia Mutli, heads of government and delegation, Excellencies, Ministers, Excellencies, Ambassadors, dear guests. At the outset, I wish to extend my thanks to the government and the people of Ethiopia for the efforts made to hold this summit. We thank them for the support and the hospitality accorded to us in this beautiful city of Addis Ababa, which saw the establishment of our organization as inspired by the founding fathers, to have an Africa that is peaceful and united. I'm very happy to reiterate my thanks to my brothers, the presidents of the member states of the African Union, for the honor bestowed in me for chairing this organization. throughout my mandate. I also extend my thanks to the presidents of countries and who are with us to attend this important meeting at the beginning of 2025. This year raises a number of questions. Thank you, Excellencies, heads of government. My chairmanship of the African Union has taken place at an international period that is highly sensitive. This also coincided by our adoption of the second decade plan within the framework of Agenda 2063. It represents a plan for...
Now, the person who's speaking currently at the Nelson Mandela Hall is none other than Mohammed Sheikh El Ghazouani, the chairperson of the African Union and the president of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. Various key guests have already spoken there. We started off with none other than the Prime Minister, who is the host there in Ethiopia, that is Dr. Abiy Ahmed, then followed by the outgoing AUC chairperson, that is Moussa Faki, who largely of that particular conversation spoke in Arabic as well as French, and then gone to the Antonio Guterres, who is the Secretary General of the United Nations, of course, pledging the support of the United Nations with the AU there in that particular session. And then we had from Mahmoud Abbas, who is the President of the State of Palestine, just giving an overlook of what has transpired in the Gaza Strip for the last 1 year or so. And of course, he clearly stated that the main aim is to ensure a two-state solution is adopted so that Palestine can take its place in the League of Nations. And then finally, right now, the person who is speaking was none other than Mohammed Sheikh El Ghazouani, the chairperson of the African Union and the president of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. After that, there will be an announcement of the Bureau of the Assembly of the African Union for the year 2025, and then the handing over of the statement by the outgoing AU chairperson, not AUC, His Excellency Mohammed Ghazouani, of course, the president of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. Then the acceptance speech by none other than His Excellency João Manuel, who is the President of the Republic of Angola, who is taking over from the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. And then there will be launch of the African theme, where they clearly stated it will be addressing justice for the African people. That will be the theme for this particular session of the 38th and the whole year of 2025. And then afterwards, there will be a group photo followed by now where the presidents will be retreating ahead of that particular vote that will be taking place in the evening. My guests are still here with me in studio. I do have Ambassador Boaz Mbaya, Mr. Gilbert Kiprono, an economist and governance expert, Dr. Isaac Hassan, a governance expert. We'll be trying to dissect what we have just heard from the speakers we were able to hear from, who spoke English, and you can even see the AUC attempted to ensure that we got at least the English version of what the leaders were saying in that hall itself. And of course, don't forget, we'll be linking up with our reporters at the end of this, including John Jacob Kuria, who is currently attending that particular session in Addis. Let me start with our senior here, Ambassador Boaz Mbaya. Ambassador, you have listened to that particular opening remarks made by all those leaders. What undertones have you gathered so far?
Well, thank you very much. I think we missed most of it. I don't know how you got it, but we missed most of it. My take is that the overriding factor is the election of the AU chairperson, AU Commission chairperson, and nobody wanted to address the elephant in the room. I think they are trying to skirt around it to try and deal with development issues, what the AU itself stands for, and so forth. For the time being, I think today everybody's focus is really on who is going to take over the chairmanship of the AU Commission. And that's the person who is going to be the manager, the person who is going to be given the mandate to try and steer the organization into a direction where it will probably achieve a lot more than it has already done. Now, we've seen the candidates in terms of their posters and so forth, one claiming to be simply a very accomplished diplomat. But you see, that is not an issue for diplomacy alone. It's an issue for managing the agenda of Africa. And it is hopeful that the dynamics, the various dynamics that are at play will result in an election of somebody who will actually push the agenda of the continent further. Diplomacy is fine, yes, but management of public affairs is quite a different issue. So I hope that it is possible that we will get somebody who can actually manage Africa. Thanks.
Gilbert, what have you gathered so far?
I think what I've gathered is, of course, I didn't hear much because of
the language.
that speakers were speaking Arab and French. But I can say that from what I gathered, it's like it's a call for Africa to stand. It's a call for Africa to make the right choice. It's also a call for Africa to look inward and also try to see what is it that they can be able to build on what already exists. I've rightfully gathered something from Guterres that we do have a lot of minerals in Africa. Yes. We have resources in Africa. Yes. What is it that we can do with the resources that we have? Is it that there is need to see out to re-engineer and, of course, get somebody who can be able to ensure that the resources that we have are well utilized? I've had mention of also the over-reliance on foreign aid and how then can we be able to look at what we can do with the resources that we have. I think as Ambassador has mentioned, what is very key is the person that is going to take lead in this election will not only look at the diplomatic aspects, but also will look at the way they are going to manage our African resources, take leadership, ensure that the Agenda 2063 that we've thought about and we have thought through as Africans that we need to get into is done to the, to its very logical conclusion in terms of one, look at the population that we have in Africa and look at the huge youthful population. I've also had, one of the speakers mention that it's the potential that we have that we do not lose. We really need to ensure that we don't lose it. One key other aspect that I've also gathered from this is that, and this is now informal, by the fact that most speakers, are able to speak in French and Arab, I don't know whether that will be able to have an impact on the outcome. However, having said that, we are very hopeful that the candidates, of course, the right choices are going to be made, and probably we have our candidate taking lead. One other thing I wanted to mention is this, and I think it's very critical, is that how mature are we as Africans when you talk about the idea of politics? Of course, we know that we still have the other way where we really get a lot of the geopolitical, impact in terms of the decisions that we make in Africa. So here is where now we need to find a way of, and I think the heads of state should actually be able to live to the fact that we ideally as Africans should think African, do everything African. If there is need for any support, then it should be actually us driving, for example, creating an environment, for example, for foreign direct investment, creating an environment where investments can be able to thrive. We are exporting a lot, in terms of raw materials, and it takes me back to what I said. Are we able to add value to our produce in Africa? We have a lot, but it's less that we do less. Poverty is still a key thing that is affecting us in Africa. Are we now going to leverage, and whoever is going to take over is going to leverage on their expertise to be able to alleviate, to try as much as possible to implement the Agenda 2063 so that we are able to reduce the poverty level, because we are still so much dependent, as I mentioned, the foreign aid. We are still so much selling out, and exporting raw materials. How are we going to diversify? And I think that is why there is also a mention of AfCFTA, issues of trade and intra-African trade, which I think should be the focus of whoever is going to get in, so that we get a space where I, as a Kenyan, or we as Kenyans, we can be able to export and get to the other borders without, of course, having the challenges of the trade barriers and, of course, and the other, non-tariff barriers, and, of course, the tariff barriers, which I think should be the focus of whoever is going to take over. So our hope is that the leader who is going to be chosen, because anything can happen. There's a chance for Raila to win, there's a chance for the other candidates to win, but whoever is going to take over, we will be able to accept the outcome. We have no option but to make the best out of it.
Okay. Daktari, as you also react, there are some various issues that have been raised by the Ethiopia Prime Minister as well as the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in terms of what Gilbert is talking about, boosting of inter-Africa trade, but also the call of ending systemic exploitation of resources. You do know we do have a lot of resources, both renewable and non-renewable, in our various African countries, and of course cooperation between the countries. Should we see, because you see one of the clarion call by Raila Amolo Odinga is to get rid of visas, because we're in an African continent, we don't have to travel from one country to another and then you're asked a visa. So was this a clear indication to what the next AUC chair out of the three candidates, whoever will win, should do?
Yeah, I think Abdulaziz, I think a number of speakers have echoed issues of Africa. And from their conversation, you see the problem is with Africa. And the solution remains with Africans.
Yes.
Because when you look at the speech by the outgoing AU chair, it is evident that the journey that he has taken for 8 years wasn't easy. There was lack of will among member states. And that's why he put it very well. In his speech, he said that the African Union problem is far from over. We are just at the beginning, and we wish whoever I'm handing over the baton to will be supported to roll out the problems of Africa. Purposely, he says he will be available to support his successor so that he understands very well the challenges and all the things that he has gone through. And to the audience who are actually the owners of the African Union, he told them that we need to continuously encourage each other in order for them to transform the future of African generation or the future of our generation. So, meaning then, there are obstacles within the system that whoever becomes the chair and comes with any energy to transform the African nation will have a lot of obstacles due to lack of will from the owners of the African Union. Coming to the resources and the need to refocus our energy into Africa than energy focused on receiving end, where African will talk about who will going to help them. The UN will going to help them, donors will going to help them. If you look at in the recent Trump's suspension of foreign aid,
yes,
Africans were crying. These are nations that are having resources, that are able to run their own things, but they have developed what is called dependency syndrome. And therefore, even if they are given everything in this world, they will never see their own. They will still beg.
العديد من الدول الإفريقية، وإنني لحريص في هذا الإطار على تقديم التهنئة والشكر الجزيل لرئيس البنك الإفريقي للتنمية السيد أكويميني أديسينا، وكذلك لرئيس مجموعة البنك الدولي السيد أجاي بانغا على ما حرص عليه من توحيد الجهود في إطار هذه الشراكة الطموحة، وكذلك على ما دأب عليه من دعم وموازرة للجهد التنموي الإفريقي. ثم إن للطاقة دورا أساسا في التحديات البيئية التي تلحق بالغ الضرر بمجموعاتنا الإفريقية، على الرغم من ضآلة مساهمتنا وحجم جهودنا الكبيرة في إحراز تحول طاقوي تدريجي وعادل. ولذا باسمكم جميعا خلال الدورة 29 لمؤتمر تغير المناخ المنعقدة في باكو نوفمبر 2024 على ضرورة تحمل المجتمع الدولي مسؤوليته ولزوم دعمه لقدرتنا على مواجهة الآثار الهدامة للتغيرات المناخية. أصحاب الفخامة والمعالي أيها السادة والسيدات، إن تحقيق أهداف خطة العمل الثانية لتنفيذ أجندة 2063 يرتبط كثيرا بقوة وعمق التنسيق ما بين الاتحاد الإفريقي والمجموعات الاقتصادية الإقليمية والآليات الإقليمية، ولذا ركزنا خلال اجتماع التنسيق على ضرورة دمج الخطط الوطنية في البرامج القارية توطيدا لتكامل القارة وتعزيزا لوحدة صوتها دوليا. ووحدة الصوت هذه
closely related to the coordination between the AU and the regional economic communities. For this reason, in our mid-year coordinating committee in Accra, we focused on integrating our national plans in continental programs to achieve African complementarity and to make its voice heard. This common voice will enable us to have the position that should enable us to effectively participate in the development of international agenda that should focus on sensitive African issues. Therefore, in all these events, we defended the rights of the African continent in its representation in the Security Council. We also called for a review of the international rules of governance. Our efforts were positively met, and there were clear commitments to work on them in the various meetings. But the effectiveness of the follow-up and the joint African work mean that we need to continue the structural transformation of our continent. You all know the questions raised by the structural transformation, such as the principle of alternation and how this is implemented, in addition to distribution of positions. Because of the sensitiveness of this issue, we held an extraordinary meeting of the Executive Council, during which there was a decision to see how we can apply the principle of alternation to have a just alternation between the regions. In line with this reformist spirit, we worked on the review of the skills within the African Union. An extraordinary meeting of the Executive Council was held in November 2024 to make a decision on the best ways to carry out this operation. Following extensive consultation, the Council identified solutions to this issue. It established a clear roadmap to continue this process. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in my initial speech, I emphasized the need to overcome the challenges, and I indicated that this could only be done by joint efforts on the basis of our common destiny in order to achieve our noble objectives. Today, I reiterate the same issue as I hand over the chairmanship to His Excellency President João Lourenço, wishing him full success in the mission he is entrusted with. I express my readiness to continue with supporting him. I should seize this opportunity to extend my thanks to Moussa Faki Mohamed, the chairperson of the African Union Commission. I hail his leadership skills. I thank him for his valuable support during my term. I extend my thanks to the members of the African Union Commission and the various organs of the organization. I'm very proud for being able to serve my African continent and to be its voice in international meetings. I end my term fully convinced of the capacity of our continent to achieve the objectives of Agenda 2063. I'm more determined to work more effectively in this regard. I reiterate my congratulations to President João Lourenço. I wish him full success. I wish our summit full success. Long live the African Union. Long live Africa, independent and prosperous. I thank you very much for your attention.
Président en exercice et président de la République islamique de Excellence, Monsieur Abiy Ahmed, Premier ministre de la République fédérale démocratique. Excellence, Messieurs et Madame les chefs d'État de l'Union africaine, Excellence, Messieurs de l'État de la Palestine, Excellence, Madame la première vice-présidente de la République de Barbados,
Your Excellency, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government of the African Union states, Your Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine, Your Excellency the Vice President of Barbados, Prime Minister of Barbados, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency, Deputy Secretary General of the Arab League of States, heads of delegations, Excellencies, ambassadors, permanent representatives and observers of states, Excellencies, commissioners, heads of delegations, Excellencies, ambassadors, permanent representatives and observers of states, Excellencies, commissioners, Excellencies, heads of African Union organs, invited guests, all protocols observed, Assalamu alaikum. I have the honor of introducing the Bureau of the Conference for 2025 pursuant to Article 16 of the Rules of Procedure of the Conference. The Bureau is as follows. Chair, the Republic of Angola, Southern Region. First Vice Chair, the Republic of Burundi, Central Region. Second Vice Chair, the Republic of Ghana, Western Region. Third Vice Chair, Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, Eastern Region. Apologies. Rapporteur, the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Northern Region, which is submitted for your approval. Thank you, Excellencies.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and congratulations for the new elected Bureau. I have the honor now to invite Excellency Mohammed Wil Sheikh Al Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, to deliver his handover speech. Your Excellency, please.
Je voudrais remercier mes chers collègues.
I wish to thank my peers, Head Secretariat Government, members of the Assembly, for having elected me at the head of the African Union as President for the period 2024-2025. Together, we have worked to advance the integration agenda on the continent. I wish to thank you for all the support and to thank you for the unflinching support that you gave me, contributing to the success of Mauritania and the entire continent in pursuing this lofty task. I will now call upon my brother, President João Lourenço, to hand over the baton, to him, and I wish him success in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And now I have the honor to welcome His Excellency João Manuel Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, the new chairperson of the African Union, for the handover ceremony in the High Table. You are welcome, Your Excellency.
Okay, thank you. Obrigado.
Congratulations.
So much.
His Majesty Mswati III from the Kingdom of Eswatini, Your Majesty Letsi III from the Kingdom of Lesotho, Your Excellency Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and the outgoing President of the African Union, Excellencies, Heads of States and Government, Your Excellency Abiy Ahmed Ali, Prime Minister of the Democratic and Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of United Nations, Excellencies, representatives of heads of states and governments, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, members, Excellencies, and President Mahmoud Abbas, President of the Palestinian Authority, and our guest of honor, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps accredited in Addis Ababa, ladies and gentlemen. I would like, on the outset, to deeply thank His Excellency Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed from the Democratic and Federal Republic of Ethiopia and his people for, once again, as it always the habit each year in February, that they host the most important meeting of the African Union. I would like to thank them for the warm welcome and hospitality that was accorded to us since our arrival in this beautiful country. I would also thank Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and outgoing President of the African Union for the proactive way, dynamic and proactive way that he led our organization during his tenure. We were able to carry out, through his mandate, actions that contributed to the achievement of the main objective defined by our organization for the last year that just ended. And we also built educative systems that are strong to allow quality education for African citizens, taking into account the better performance of our continent at the global stage, taking into account the objectives of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union and Agenda 2030 of the United Nations. Excellencies, you are leaving us a great legacy. It's upon us now to continue to work and capitalize on your work that you leaving for us. And I count on your support and experience, as well as the support of all the other African countries, so that Angola can also undertake a presidency that will be at the level of our expectations, and that we can also add our efforts for the achievement of the development goals of our countries, together with the achievement of Agenda 2063 in all our efforts in building the Africa that we want. My thanks are also addressed to all the African countries, but most especially Southern region, for the trust entrusted to us in order to lead in 2025 the African Union, at a time when our continent is faced with major challenges related to peace and security, which are a blockage to many initiatives and actions that we want to undertake for the development of our nations. As you all know, it is the first time that Angola is assuming this major responsibility of leading the destiny of our continent in the coming 12 months. But we are going to look attentively to the problems of Africa, and we are going to contribute with our experience to finding solutions to peace and security, and for the implementation by member states of our economic policies, social policies, to promote progress and development of our continent. This is very important for us, the fact that we are assuming the chairship of the African Union in 2025. At the time, we are also celebrating 50 years of our independence, national independence. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, throughout this conference, many issues will be discussed that are very important for our continent. The working framework of the African Union and the operationalization, the issue related to justice for African and people of African descendants to true reparations, which is the theme selected for this year, and a theme that Angola also chose for its chairship, which is related to the building infrastructure as a factor for development for Africa. These aspects, if combined, can allow us to build a communication channel and a channel of dialogue with our partners. It will make us understand the importance and the advantage of cooperating for a developed Africa, Africa that is industrialized, that is going to win over hunger, misery, and unemployment, and reducing the probability of armed conflict and illegal immigration. We will have the opportunity to address all these aspects in our 4th conference for development that is going to take place in Sevilla, in Spain, from 30th June to 4 July this year. And we believe this is a historical opportunity to redefine the rules of financing based on economic justice and inclusion, taking into account the commitments from previous conferences that were not fulfilled, especially the Monterrey Consensus, Doha Declaration, and Addis Ababa Declaration. The 4th Sevilla Conference is going to address the challenges that we are faced in the funding for development and promoting the adoption of innovative solutions and more effective solutions, such as fiscal justice, debt relief, climate funding, reforms in financial and global institutions, and social inclusion. These are going to deserve our attention so that we can adopt a common position that can ensure the continent to reinforce its influence in the global governance and the reduction of the cost of the debt, and for a sustainable development of our continent. The achievement of these objectives is going to create synergies that are going to promote more trade, more cultural exchange, and technology, and other aspects that are going to bring benefits for all the parts involved. We believe that in the objective that we aim for our countries, we include issues that are for priorities, especially in fundamental infrastructures, railways, roads, airports, and ports, power supply stations that are essential for the industrialization of our continent and to improve the living conditions of our people. During our presidency of the African Union that we are going to assume from today, we hope to work together with all the members of our institutions. We're hoping to launch a plan for together with our partners so that the African Union Commission can be able to establish the basis for infrastructure projects that are going to be undertaken in our continent. We would like to underline the contribution of Angola for the development of Africa, taking into account our superavit when it comes to energy supply, especially in this sector of energy. Given its strategic relevance that it have in the transportation of goods and in African trade between Africa and within Africa, taking into account the Lobito corridor and the Tanzanian railways that we believe are going to play a major role in connecting African countries and in promoting the trade that we want to achieve, especially under the AFCFTA. Taking into account what I've just said, I believe that we should come up with a well-defined strategy in order to yield the benefits. I believe that by integrating G20, it's essential in ensuring that Africa plays an active role in global decisions. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the strategic lines of our presidency are aligned in general terms with the priority actions defined by our continent, especially under the acceleration of the implementation of the second 10-year implementation plan of the Agenda 2063, especially covering 2024-2034, centered in transportation infrastructure, connectivity, energy, natural resources, peace and security, agriculture, blue economy, continental integration, and African free trade area and strategic partnerships. In this framework, our major lines of our interventions of major importance is the issue of peace and security, because we believe this is one of the pillars for the materialization of the aspirations of our Agenda 2063 of the African Union, especially the program that aims at silencing the guns by 2030, by transforming Africa in a peaceful region, safe, with a promising future, with prosperity for all Africans, and in placing our continent in the development route. In the reports of our activities, the undertaken as a champion, AU champion for peace and reconciliation in Africa, I made a detailed presentation, the activities that I undertook in helping the achievement of peace in our continent, especially in the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo. I will also present my vision on what I believe that is essential to be taken into account in the future in order to put an end to the conflicts in Africa and in order to address the challenge of unconstitutional change of government, terrorism, invasion, and occupation of neighboring countries. We also have major challenges related to natural disaster resulting from climate changes and Marburg, cholera, and other diseases that are affecting us, and call on us to unite our efforts in order to find collective solutions for their elimination. In this perspective, I believe that it's essential that the third conference on the oceans that is going to take place in France is an opportunity for us to address the main concerns of this topic and that are affecting our continent. With more than 30 coastal countries, our continent will have to protect maritime ecosystems and promote blue economy and undertake more actions against illegal fish, maritime pollution, and against climate changes, which are major challenges that we have to face together permanently. I would like to hope that this conference will contribute to reinforce our coastal resilience and building conditions to mobilize international funding for sustainable projects under the blue economy. Excellencies, this year and during the Angolan presidency, we are going to work in coordination with the African Union Commission to mobilize financial resources through the contributions of our member states in order to be able to have necessary resources for the realizations of projects and programs of continental level and reducing our dependencies for external funding. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are living a global landscape, a very challenging global landscape, especially with the challenge in our continent and in Eastern Europe and Middle East. Despite all that, we overcome these challenges and build the Africa that we dream of, contributing in the solution of the problems that are affecting our humanity. It's in this context that I believe that we should continue to act together so that the United Nations will be more inclusive and more aligned to the challenges and opportunities. And the reform of the United Nations should continue to be a priority for our continent. And it is very important to reaffirm our commitment with the consensus of Ezuline and the Sirte Declaration of 2005 for 2 seats as permanent members with the right of veto and other privileges that are related to the seats. Excellencies, I would like to call on you, your best contribution, so that our presidents of our continental organization that we assume today can take part, can happen in a climate of understanding and the dynamics that is necessary in this long work that we together undertake for the transformation of Africa as a continent that rich and prosperous for its people. Allow me to address my vote of thanks to His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed and the outgoing commissioners that had their mandates at the Commission for their excellent work throughout their mandates at the helm of our common house of Africa. I wish to the new coming Commission successes in their mandates and endeavors, and I appeal that the Pan-African spirit and the ideals of our founding fathers continue to lead the future of our continental organization. I would like to hereby accept to undertake the functions of the chair of the African Union, and that our tears today for having lost the African child, Samuel Nyoma, will be transformed in strength that will help us achieve the challenge that are ahead of us. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in introducing the theme of the year, Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations, it is now with great honor that I welcome Her Excellency Dr. Monique Nzanza Baganwa, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, who will share her introductory remarks. Your Excellency. Then we will introduce Barbados.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the Chairperson of the African Union, Your Majesties, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency and dear brother, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, allow me to stand on already established protocol. Over the past centuries, the voices of Africans and people of African descent have echoed in various quarters with a singular demand: justice. Justice for the millions who were forcibly, and justice for the generations that continue to face economic, social, and political disenfranchisement stemming from historical wrongs. As I draw my term in office as Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission to an end soon, a unique opportunity is offered to me and one of my teams, SIDO, to introduce to you the 2025 theme of the year, Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations. As we embark on this journey in 2025, we are guided by the words of the eminent Pan-Africanist Kwame Nkrumah, who declared, and I quote, "We face neither east nor west. We face forward." The African Union's Agenda 2063 envisions a continent that is integrated, prosperous, and driven by its own citizens, a continent that is peaceful. The strength of this Africa has always been in its unity and resilience. At this moment, we stand at the precipice of history, and together we shall pave the way for a more just and dignified future for Africa, the CARICOM, and Africa's global diaspora at large. Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, as I conclude, since I'm not the one to deliver the high-level message, we have two leaders who will do it in just a short. But let me take this opportunity to thank all our stakeholders who have journeyed with us. Thank you, Ghana, and our champion, President Mahama, for inspiring the African Union with this theme. I wish to thank you, my dear brother Musa Faki, for your leadership and support. But through you also acknowledge our teams who have worked hard around this theme of the year. Especially, I wish to recognize two ladies. Madam Coleman from your cabinet chairperson and Angela from CEDAW. You did an amazing work. Special appreciation goes to Her Excellency Mia Amor Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados and Chair of the CARICOM Authority. You have traveled all the way from home to another home to join us in today's launch. May I now invite you, Your Excellency, to come to the podium and address this august assembly. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Your Excellencies, and may I start, Chairperson of the African Union, President of Angola, Your Excellency, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and our host, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Your Excellency, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union, and President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government of the African Union, and First Ladies present, Your Excellency, the President of the Palestinian Authority, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies, former heads of state and heads of government of the African Union, distinguished delegates, ambassadors, and guests all. I stand here clothed in the spirit of the battles of Adwa, conscious that it was that battle within 24 hours that shook the confidence of the powers of Europe, but inspired the people of Africa and the children of the African diaspora that good would prevail over evil and light over darkness, but only in the context of our unity. I stand here conscious that it was that battle that forged the beginnings of Pan-Africanism that eventually led to the movement for independence and the destruction of the colonial powers to give us not full development and power, but the first steps of political independence. I stand here conscious and buffeted by the dreams and works of the great Pan-African pioneers, and conscious that as a children of the Caribbean, we have long dreamt for the moment of unity with our brothers and sisters of Africa, a division that was secured by those whose success and survival depended on separation of us rather than on the ability for us to act as one common people. Our relationship, you can say, was embryonic. But regrettably, as long as it has been and as related as we have been, it has been sporadic. And it is up to us, as the children of independent states, to determine whether the history of separation shall be our future, or whether the spirit of Adwa can be our inspiration to confront the challenges of a new world. Yes, I stand here as a daughter of Africa. I stand here equally as a proud Prime Minister of Barbados, a country which is the first landmass that you reach after you leave this great continent of Africa. A country which became a hub for the wrong reasons. But today I come to Ethiopia to share with you in the Africa Union that we can be a hub now for the right reasons between our two peoples. I stand here as the proud chairman of CARICOM, the Caribbean community, recognizing that as a member of the 6th region of Africa, we have come to reclaim our Atlantic destiny. We have come to ensure that the very futures of our people are different and will not once again be determined by a middleman who will ensure that the Middle Passage is one that sees our people at the bottom of the ocean's floor of the Atlantic or in the fields of the plantations of the Caribbean, but instead that it will be a future that sees our people, hears our people, feels our people, and that will determine in future that it is we who shall forge the manner in which we cooperate, integrate, and invest, rather than simply being victims of a past history. I stand here equally as the chair of the V20, 70 countries across the world that are climate vulnerable, 40% of whom come from this great continent of Africa, recognizing that it is only through unity that we can confront the existential crisis of our generation, that of the climate crisis. The Secretary General of the United Nations has already laid out, ably so, many of the iniquities that we continue to face in spite of political independence. It was His Majesty Haile Selassie who popularized and told us that there shall be no first-class or second-class citizens, words popularized by Bob Marley, learned by all of our people without appropriately recognizing the context in which he spoke and the mission which must be ours for generations until it is achieved. He told us that there would be war if there were first-class and second-class citizens. He told us that there would be war if the color of our skin was more significant than the color of our eyes. And we see here in the continent the continued descent into conflicts born out of ethnicity differences, born out of a mad grab for resources, not invariably for our own benefit, but for the benefit of others who seek to use our people as pawns in the determination of their own future. But we stand here as proud people, and we have enough among ourselves to know the difference between right and wrong, and to forge a future that is not for a few, but for the many. Indeed, as the world confronts the climate crisis, it is the poorest of the poor who remain the most vulnerable to floods and droughts and hurricanes. It is the poorest of the poor, and soon to be the middle of the middle, who will no longer be able to access insurance and therefore to be able to forge ahead with development if we do not make changes. We have examples of a partnership that have worked for us, not just from the spirit of Adwa and the conquest and the rise of the Pan-Africanist movement in our history, but within recent times. During the COVID-19 pandemic, it was the Africa Union, under the leadership then of President Ramaphosa, and with the assistance of Dr. Tedros of the WHO, that recognized that the Caribbean, which was being marginalized by denial of access to basic therapeutics, basic medical equipment, to vaccines, that we should not be left as pariahs on the global landscape, but that our brothers and sisters in Africa would bring us through the Africa Medical Supplies platform to be able to ensure that we could secure for our own people. It was with the solidarity of many of you in the Africa Union that the Bridgetown Initiative has been able to take root and to make a case for a more modern and a fairer system that allows us to be able to access finance and to be able to put in place measures that allow us to be able to pause our repayment of debt during the period of necessity for rebuilding after horrific climatic events. We have seen how partnership helps us. We do not need any more evidence. What is required of us is to lead the way to peace, to prosperity, and to justice. And the reparations which we call for the international community to be able to recognize, first and foremost, with that which we ask from each of our children: say sorry. Say sorry, and mean it. And after you say sorry, recognize that the future of the world is not possible without the stability of Africa and its diaspora. For as long as hypocrisy and double standards remain, it will be impossible to secure stability and peace in any nation across the earth. The reparations that we call for, beyond sorry, must be for fair access and development and compensation, because we each started the journey of independence with a chronic deficit. A deficit of resources, a deficit of fairness, a deficit of opportunity. And it is up to us, many of us in the second and third generation of independence, to be able to frame out fairly in a mature conversation what those reparations must look like if we are to attain justice and to inspire the young people of this world that good must always prevail over evil. But it is not only the reparations that we ask from the international community, because we ourselves must repair the damage that was foisted on us. The notion that transit visas, begging for them, must be the lot of our people in order to move across this world cannot be something that gives us satisfaction. To go east and to go west, we are first forced to go north. It is not right. And it is not beyond the heads of government and heads of state, of the region, of the Caribbean community, and of the continent of Africa to determine that we must stop talking about, but simply do what is necessary to build the air bridges and sea bridges to guarantee that we control our destiny. I ask us to reflect on this because it is this simple act, apart from our music and our culture and our food, that will guarantee that it is not simply heads of government and heads of state that will meet in Accra or Bridgetown, but it is ordinary people who will be able to trade and to move from the closest point of Dakar to the closest point of Bridgetown, to be able to open up the opportunities that technically ought to be available not just simply through the Africa Free Trade Area or the CARICOM single market and economy, but through the combined opportunities provided by both. I ask us equally to recognize that in an era where AI is threatening to redefine what humanity can do and even if we can survive, that it is not ours to be the victims once again of technology as we were with gunpowder, but it is for us to help shape the future of the world, because more often than not it is Africa and its people who have brought the humanizing forces to bear on civilization. And if we are to be the cradle of civilization, then we are to be the protectors of people and planet, of humanity as we go forward. And some watching on may say, how? And I say, how not? How not does a continent that has 40% of the world's minerals not be in charge of helping to secure the destiny and stability of the planet? How not does the numbers of our two communities, who constitute a third of the world's states, not act in singular purpose to forge the kind of world that we want, and to be able to ensure that the institutions that deny access to us, to hear our voices as reflective of the continent and of the small island developing states of the world, how do we not secure that admission, which is not only just, but a moral imperative if the world is to have stability in this 21st century? My friends, I ask you, how do we not secure this victory when 1 in every 5 and possibly 1 in every 4 persons on the planet will come from this continent and its diaspora? Those who lead today have a moral imperative, not just to our citizens in our own countries, but above all else, to unity. The spirit of Adwa demands of us that we recognize that even in the face of the greatest technology being foisted upon us, that we can rise and win if we act in unity. This has been a message not given by our generation alone, but by previous generations of African and Caribbean leaders. But we ask ourselves, why does it elude us? And the answer comes not from outside, but only from within. When I speak of the USA with affection, I do not only want to speak of that which is known in the Americas. I want to speak about that which ought to have been possible if the 1884 Berlin talks did not take place. The possibility of the United States of Africa, which is as diverse as India, which is as diverse as China in terms of ethnicity and language and religion, but which is entirely possible if we see not ourselves first, but we see the unity of ourselves together. This may be the cry of a naive and romantic daughter of Africa. But if that is the case, I prefer to die being a naive and romantic daughter of Africa than one who is cynical and one who is daunted by the actions and power of others. We know what it is to stand in unity with you to fight apartheid and to fight for the liberation of the peoples of Africa. For when President Castro stood to send people from his own country to Southern Africa to free your people, it was in my own country that the planes refueled, ensuring that that battle was possible. And when 100 years ago, almost, a Barbadian man and woman left our nation and left the United States to come here, Arnold and Mignon Ford, he wrote the anthem and lyrics of the anthem of the United Negro Improvement Association, UNIA, and his wife dared to establish a co-educational school here in Ethiopia, ensuring that boys and girls could receive education in a time and at a time when war was dominating the global landscape. They chose to see light rather than darkness. I ask us today in tangible terms that will allow our people to travel, that will allow us to pool our investments to ensure that the people of Africa not be denied the electricity that is so necessary as a platform for participation in the new world. I ask us not only to pool that investment, but to also ensure that we pool our voices, because there is too much division in this world today. There is too much war and there is too much conflict. And we know what precipitates and causes that. If we leave Addis Ababa with the commitment that the world is not going to be safe without a prosperous and stable Africa, then we understand what is the moral imperatives we must undertake in each of our countries to secure that unity of purpose and to secure ultimately the saving of the people and planet. I ask you today to recognize that, and I thank Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed for agreeing that the first in-face summit of CARICOM and the African Union should take place here in Addis Ababa on the 7th of September of this year of our Lord. By that simple act, we build on the inaugural summit which took place virtually in 2021. But more importantly, we seek to regularize and to establish as a permanent point of interaction the unity of which I speak and call for. And I ask you as I leave this podium to recognize that we too in the Caribbean want to see you. Indeed, in my own country in Barbados, we will celebrate the Caribbean Festival of Arts, the 15th CariFesta, from August 22nd to August 31st. And we do so not only asking for those from Cuba and Bahamas in the north, to Venezuela, to Suriname and Guyana in the south, to Belize in the west and the Eastern Caribbean to come together to express our commitment to each other creatively through food and fashion and music and dance and art and sculpture and talk. Talk of philosophy, talk of religion, talk of who we are, talk of the future. I ask us to recognize that we celebrate this year our resilience and that we do so not only asking the people of the Caribbean to come, but the people from whom we came here in Africa, in India, in China, and the continent to which we went, in particular in Central America and Latin America. This is our moment to show the world that we were not simply apostrophes to the history and the modern history of humanity, but that truly we are the ones who can level the playing field and to create the opportunities that will allow the world to see people, hear people, and feel people, and to value the planet and its biodiversity at the very time when it is greatest in crisis. Let us remove the scars of history and be firm craftsmen of our fate, recognizing that the only people who can stop us now are we but ourselves. We have to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery and to build the future that our people want of us and to give them that pride that is theirs. And we must do so in the spirit and with the results of ADWA. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Prime Minister of Barbados, Chair of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, for a global call for the African Union theme of year 2025. It is my distinct honor to welcome now His Excellency John Mahama, the President of the Republic of Ghana, as the African Union leader on advancing the cause of justice and payment of reparations to Africans. Your Excellency.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Chairman, President of Angola, Your Excellency, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency, Chairperson of the African Union, and in the interest of time, may I just proceed on established protocol and say, Your Excellencies, my colleague, heads of state, distinguished citizens. It's a privilege to address this historic launch of the African Union theme of the year 2025, and I quote, "Justice for Africans and the people of African descent through reparations," unquote. This moment marks a significant milestone in our collective pursuit of justice, equity, and the long overdue recognition of the historical injustices that continue to shape the lives of Africans and the people of African descent worldwide. At the 37th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the African Union in February 2024, our heads of state and government made a landmark decision to dedicate the year 2025 to the cause of reparatory justice. This decision underscores our collective commitment to addressing the historical injustices and their lingering consequences that have impacted generations of Africans and people of African descent. It aligns with our broader struggle for liberation, unity, and socio-economic empowerment as enshrined in Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, a vision for an integrated, peaceful, and prosperous continent. Your Excellencies, the transatlantic slave trade was one of the most heinous crimes against humanity, spanning about 400 years and forcibly displacing more than 12.5 million Africans. It is estimated that at least 2 million of our compatriots perished during the Middle Passage alone. The legacy of this brutal system, along with colonialism, apartheid, genocide, and new colonial exploitation, have left deep and enduring scars on the fabric of our societies. Today, the descendants of enslaved Africans continue to face economic disparities, social inequality, systemic discrimination, and racial prejudices. Addressing these challenges require more than just acknowledging them. It demands action. The economic impact of colonialism on Africa has been profound. Historical estimates suggest that the continent lost trillions of dollars in both human and material resources due to colonial exploitation. The forced extraction of wealth, which included minerals, cash crops, and labor, deprived African nations of the capital and infrastructure necessary for sustainable development. Colonial policies intentionally stifled industrial growth, leading to a dependency on foreign economies that persists even till today. The systemic plundering of Africa's natural resources, coupled with the disruption of traditional governance structures, has resulted in lasting consequences, worsening poverty, underdevelopment, and inequality throughout the continent. In November 2023, Ghana hosted the Accra Reparations Conference, a historic gathering that brought together African heads of state, scholars, and representatives of the global African diaspora to advance the reparations movement. This conference reaffirmed the urgent need for comprehensive reparatory justice and laid the foundation for stronger advocacy and policy frameworks. It provided a platform for dialogue on the financial, cultural, and social restitution necessary to address the enduring effects of slavery and colonialism. The outcomes of this conference served as a guiding pillar for our collective efforts moving forward. The 2025 AU theme of the year is therefore a call to galvanize efforts towards reparatory justice. It is an appeal to ensure that the dignity, rights, and well-being of Africans and their descendants are fully restored. Reparations involves not only financial compensation, but also restitution, rehabilitation, and guarantees of non-repetition for the abuse of fellow human beings. It is also about truth-telling, historical accountability, and the restoration of agency to those who have been marginalized for centuries. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, The call for reparations, while including, extends beyond financial redress to encompass addressing structural inequalities, ensuring educational and economic opportunities, reclaiming cultural heritage, and amplifying the voice of Africa and the diaspora communities on the global stage. Achieving justice requires multi-stakeholder collaboration. Today's pre-launch event serves as a crucial platform for concertedly rolling out constructive consultation, dialogue, and partnership. We welcome the participation of AU member states, regional economic communities, the global African diaspora, civil society organizations, academia, the private sector, and international partners in this transformative endeavor. The African Union Commission, in collaboration with key partners, have developed the concept note and revised the roadmap to guide the implementation of the reparations agenda. This initiative will further the aspirations of Agenda 2063, fostering an Africa that is self-reliant, just, and inclusive. Through this launch, we seek to, among other things, mobilize political will and commitment towards reparatory justice and racial healing, present and discuss the roadmap for implementing the 2025 theme of the year, foster partnerships among AU member states, diaspora communities, and like-minded international allies, engage stakeholders in resource mobilization efforts to support reparations initiatives across Africa, elevate awareness and advocacy to ensure sustained engagement beyond 2025, encourage dialogue and knowledge sharing among experts, policymakers, historians, and affected communities, and finally, to ensure an end to the culture of silence and denial on racism and colonialism. Your Excellency, the work ahead requires a unified voice, a clear strategy, and unyielding commitment. Today, we reaffirm our commitment to working together to develop policies and frameworks that will support reparations efforts across Africa and beyond. We must continue to advocate for stronger legal and institutional mechanisms at the national, regional, and international levels to ensure that reparatory justice for the historical trauma inflicted on global Africa is not just a conversation, but a reality. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I wish to express Ghana's unwavering support for this critical initiative. Let us seize this moment with the determination it deserves as we work together towards a future that is fair, that is just, and equitable for all Africans and people of African descent, and by natural extension, the uplifting of all humanity. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Allow me now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to move to the family photo while calling the rest of the respective delegates to remain in their seats. Remain in their seats, please, to ensure the smooth organization of the family photo. Allow me this time to call Excellencies and Honorable Heads of States and delegates in an organized manner to proceed to the photo session location. Allow me now to start by calling distinguished presidents from Liberia, Libya, Madagascar, and Malawi. Please follow our protocol team to the family photo. There is only one door open for the family photo, which is gate number 5. Please, protocol team.
Well, what you're just witnessing is that the assembly is taking.
The Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Kenya, and Lesotho. Please follow our protocol team to the family photo. Excellencies, presidents and heads of delegations from Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Africa, South Sudan, Tanzania, Togo, Tunisia, Uganda, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Algeria, Benin, Botswana, and Burundi. Please follow our protocol team to the photo session location. Honorable Presidents and Heads of Delegations from Mauritania, Mauritius, Morocco, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, Sahrawi Republic, Sao Tome and Principe, Senegal, Seychelles, please follow our protocol team. Excellency Prime Minister of Barbados. They went? Okay. Okay, with that, I thank you all for your time and I wish you fruitful deliberations. They didn't wait. Yes. They will change. I have my team.